Okay, so before we start, I want you to give this video a thumbs up. I will explain why in more detail later. It's very important that I do this at the beginning of the video, okay? I will come back to why this is important later. So, YouTube has done it again, and by done it again, I mean they've made one of those videos, like their YouTube Heroes video, where they were inviting people to mass flag videos for them, and they got absolutely slammed, and in that case, quite rightly so, for what they were trying to implement. Now, this time, their grotesquely unconvincing video is about the subscriptions bug.
This is a bit of an experiment. We know you have a lot of questions about the sub speed on YouTube, and we've decided to go straight to the source. Zinzi is the product manager on YouTube subscriptions.
And so for months now, people have been saying, you know, I get mysteriously unsubscribed to channels that I've been subscribed to for years. So what's going on YouTube? And, you know, you'll even see it quite often down in the comments below my videos that, you know, what the hell, I've been subscribed to you for years. Why am I suddenly unsubscribed? And so YouTube put this video up with some very young and rather unconvincing people. I mean, so it's one of these things that YouTube is in the business of running a streaming video service. They're not in the business of making interesting videos, and yeah, it's an irony that they're so bad at this. Anyway, so they had this video up saying, we looked into 100 cases and there's no problem. It's we can't find anything wrong with the system. And of course, there are just thousands of people saying, no, there is something wrong with the system. Now, it's conceivable that an element of this is human error related, in that if people want to check that they're subscribed, they might click the button that says subscribed, not realizing that by doing that, they're actually unsubscribing. And so, you know, there is an element of human error in there. But there are also people who, you know, they don't subscribe or unsubscribe to people that often. And they say, no, absolutely, you know, I've not touched any of that for months. And yet I still got unsubscribed from these channels. So what the fuck, YouTube? Now, there is a way that you can actually sort of do an end run around this. And that's by using the notification feature. So I mean, say, for instance, down below this video, it says subscribed. Then obviously, if you click it, it'll say unsubscribed. Click it again, it'll say subscribed. And next to that, there's a little bell. And that little bell is called notifications. So what that does is every time I upload a video, you'll actually get an email. And seeing as I'm not one of those guys who like to put these things out, you know, on a daily basis, it's probably not going to be too annoying. So that's one way you can make absolutely certain that my videos actually show up for you. Which brings me to another point, which there's been a lot of tension between the users and YouTube over, which was a change in the algorithm about a month or so ago. And what happened there was people, including myself, noticed that all of a sudden there was this huge drop in video views. And, you know, people put hours, years of their life into building these channels, and all of a sudden, you know, YouTube sort of flips a few switches, and your channel effectively halves in size. And you know, for me, I've always sort of took a much more reasonable barometer of how impactful a channel can be is related to its size, right? Because it's obvious in many ways. If no one actually sees your stuff, it can't actually have an effect on anyone. So yeah, the impact is a combination of two factors: how many people see it and how well the videos are made. Yeah, so those are the two factors that I try and get. And so people realized that their video views were sort of just dropping like crazy, and they weren't doing anything different. And what this really has to be, it's related to the YouTube algorithm. So the way people find people's videos is quite frequently, you know, it's just what's next to the video you're watching. And all of that is decided by a little computer program called the YouTube algorithm. And YouTube obviously has various considerations that they want to get out of the algorithm. The first one is they want it to make money for them, which basically means they want people to watch more videos. So that's probably the barometer that this thing is optimized to, what keeps people on the site for the longest. There is another consideration, of course, which is if people pay them to promote their stuff, then of course they're also making money. So there are two streams that YouTube's getting this money from, and they want to optimize the sum of both of those terms. And yeah, so all it takes is YouTube to tweak that algorithm, and it can have huge effects on the amount of traffic going to various YouTube channels. And it looked like they did that back in November sometime. And yeah, I mean, you can see how this can really undermine the confidence of a lot of video producers in the they spent years making this stuff, and YouTube comes along and they don't tell anyone about this. All of a sudden, it's like their salaries can halve just because YouTube makes a few changes. I mean, that concerns the people who make videos. And so anyway, I actually took a look at some of the YouTube statistics just to get a feel for what was correlated and what was likely to be influencing the YouTube algorithm. And so I plotted up, there are various obvious parameters that you can look at. You can look at the approval ratings, you can look at the number of thumbs up, or the number of thumbs up and thumbs down in total. You can look at the number of comments, and the real barometer that you're interested in is how does that relate to views. Now what you find is that comments and views, they're correlated, but it's not a great correlation. There's this sort of fan that comes out from zero. Not a great correlation. You take a look at thumbs up and thumbs down, and that's a very strong correlation. It's almost linear. So this is why I asked you at the beginning of this video to give this a thumbs up, right? Because it didn't really matter. Thumbs up or thumbs down would have been more or less the same. My experience is that it is the total number of votes that a video gets is the thing that is most correlated to the number of views that a video gets. Now, it's not clear to me whether it's because it's actually getting a lot of views, it's getting a lot of engagements, or whether because there are lots of engagements, it gets lots of views. What's cause, what's effect here? My personal reckoning is that the YouTube algorithm is probably nowhere near as sophisticated as you might think it would be. You might think there's going to be some very clever algorithm looking at lots of stuff. My reckoning is it's probably a lot simpler than you think, because otherwise, the more sophisticated you make an algorithm, the more difficult it becomes to predict what its behavior is going to be. And if you take a look at the simple statistics that YouTube's obviously been monitoring forever, the number of engagements, the number of people who actually vote on your video, seems to be the most obvious place to go. If people actually cared enough to actually vote on the video, then that's something that they would like to watch, or not like to watch. Either way, they watched it. So that's my little sort of experiment here. I'm just curious to see what happens if this video gets a very high voting on it. And by the way, if you want an update on the camera, it arrives on the 30th of December. So by the 31st, hopefully I'll have a high-speed camera. And so if you've got any suggestions as to what I should film first of all with it, let me know. Okay, thanks.